It's almost football season, so it's still kind of I don't know. Summer kind of sneaked up on us. It's already over and we're already here. It's just a little different from last year. I feel like the anticipation last year was so like we're counting down the days. Now it's just like oh football season's here. I don't know if that's for me or a lot of the fan base, but that's just what my experience has been like. But obviously, around Harklau is more of into the weeds of it. But that's nice to we have a lot of new faces coming in this year, and it's just nice to have you to fill in the gaps because you can actually go to practice and we can't.
How many practices have you
Yeah.
been to?
Two. I'll go to my third one again this week.
Okay.
And it's what you can watch it. You can see what it's about. And I've been watching these guys for 3 to 4 years. You got a lot of the guys will be playing this year will be guys they've recruited 3 to 4 years ago.
Right.
So again, they're new to us, to the fans, but they are not new to the program. They understand the defense, the offense, where they're going to step into, and it's exciting. It was really exciting to get to the first practice this year because what popped off the charts was team speed. I mean, and way off the charts. Like it is a really fast football team.
Yeah, that's 100% recruiting, right? I mean, that's what he's looking for. Obviously, that's the name of the game nowadays. I mean,
It is. If you look back the last 3 or 4 years, we've been ranked as high as we've ever been with recruits. And like I talked to them, we just lost that recruit to Oregon, and he wasn't. We were in the top 3 with Michigan and Washington.
and Oregon wasn't in his top 3.
Is not in the top 3. But in the year of NIL,
Right, yeah,
things
exactly.
change. Everyone's
Right.
in the mix.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
when have we been a Cyclone fan when we're at the table with Michigan and Washington and now Oregon, or against USC, Oregon winning out and beating out some SEC schools, a lot of SEC schools. J.J. Cole being one of them.
Right.
He's probably going to end up being the best and highest recruit we've ever had. We beat out, you name it, school. We beat him out. He's been in Nick Saban's office. So that's the type of job the recruiting coordinator, Derek Hoosier, has done, and all the coaches obviously as well. But putting together a team and a depth chart is his responsibility, and working with those coaches to find that talent and then attract them to the university. They've done an amazing job.
Derek's a younger guy, isn't he? I mean, a lot of these guys like Dan Broomfield and all those guys are pretty young in the coaching world, right?
Very young. And interesting enough, he was actually under Paul Rhodes. So he's a carryover from Paul Rhodes.
Really?
And so as soon as Coach Campbell got to town, he interviewed everybody, and Derek went in there and was very honest with them, and basically said, I want to stay, and knew a little bit about Coach Campbell, and they really hit it off. And he's done, in my opinion, an outstanding job with what he's put together with this depth chart and what's in the cupboards and names right now.
So what do you think, in your opinion, with obviously with the We Will collective, you're knee deep into that, but how much has it changed Derek's job? I mean, I know when you play, even in high school or whatever, you get egos you got to manage, and now you throw the NIL into the middle of it. How has it changed his job?
It's a ton, because now you're getting recruits that are coming in saying, how much? What is it? What do I got? What's on the table? What do you have? And really, it's becoming the war chest of college football and really war chest of schools. So right now, it's just what they legalized is college basketball recruiting that's been going on for years.
Right.
This is now on the table and legal. This has been happening for years. The good news is, currently with the collective with We Will, we're working with TJ and Matt and their staff, is we are not paying athletes to come to Iowa State. We are not giving them deals to come to Iowa State. We're not going to play that game. We're the wrong place for them. TJ's been very open and honest with recruits when they bring it up. If that's what you're looking for, that's not what we are. And so now we just did some work this week with some athletes that are out there doing good things in the community. You look at Will McDonald, basically went to a food bank and worked. And it's, yes, we did pay him. We were using his name, image, and likeness to do good.
Right,
to
yeah.
do great things. And he literally is knee deep in that kitchen. He's got gloves on. He's serving food, cleaning dishes, you name it. He is in there doing that work. So, again, he stayed around, which is great for us. We were able to support him and hopefully help him get through the season financially. He's going to do great as a football player, but financially he's not coming from, a pile of money. If we can give him some money to help his family get out here, look, he's not going to retire on what we paid him. But we can get his family to come watch him play, and that may not have been possible without something like this. So there's a lot of good that can come from it.
I remember Thomas's too, and like Dustin Hogue and those guys were playing. There were so many players that the first time that they saw him play was maybe their last game or senior night or something. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, that helps. I think that's obviously a real positive to get. The more I think, the more parents we get on campus, obviously, the better it's going to help recruiting.
How many times have you seen on ESPN, like, this is the first time seeing a play since, like, middle school, or, like the ones
Right.
that are from overseas even that can't get here because, like, they just simply can't afford it. And the rules back then were if you pay for it, you're
Right.
gonna get
Well, the kid, remember I can't remember Thomas, but I remember his name. He played at Marshalltown Community College, and then somebody gave him a ride to the airport, and that was a violation.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was like the Eustacia years. I mean,
and that's where the NCAA screwed up first, in my opinion.
Right.
When you look at where they screwed up first, is when they weren't supporting families of the players as supporting the NCAA, right? So when you look, probably 10 years ago, a lot of these budgets for these schools are operating for TV budgets around $10 million a year, $5 to $10 million a year. You just see what the Big Ten's going to sign
Right.
for.
Yeah.
Now we're going up to $80 to $100 million. The first thing that we should do is, like, how do we help support the families of these athletes? They've driven them to tournaments, to weekends away, they've paid for coaches, they've paid for trainers, they put all this investment in these kids, and then the next thing you think, no, parents can't come. Well, what do you mean parents can't come? They've invested in these kids, and we can't get someone from Florida. If they want to do what's right, start a travel agency and get every parent to that game, put them up in a hotel room, pay for their food, fly them in. You've got $80 million versus $5 million. It's there.
Yeah, right.
And so, again, I think that's where the start was, is not adjusting to what was happening with the TV deals and TV rights. So that's just a small portion of it now. But, again, I think that's what created a lot of issues with athletes. They had $0, and they knew they were bringing all this money to the university. And it's not a secret that you have $80 to $100 million deals. They're everywhere. It's on Twitter. It's on ESPN. And those athletes, they're paying attention to that. So,
yeah, I mean, that goes back to the whole Fab Five, 30 for 30. I mean, when they couldn't afford a pizza, and Chris Webber's sees his jersey hanging in somebody's store. I mean, that's if they can help the fan, totally makes sense. I mean, it would be nice to get a charter and just get everybody here, but
it would. But Isaiah Lee, for example, he is raising. I don't know if it's his cousin, it's a family member, where there's a health issue with this family member's parent, and Isaiah Lee is now stepping up to be the guardian for this person.
Oh, wow.
So can you imagine going to college, playing football at a high level, and taking care of somebody, right? And so there's no extra money. The NCAA is not paying for that. So, Isaiah's done a couple events for us, and we're trying to support him as well, so we can help support his family and allow him to play at a high level. And he's gonna be great this year, and he's a really good football player, but he's even better off the field, and that is shown right there. People always say that he's better off the field. No, he is better off the field for what he's doing for his family. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we were fans of Isaiah for the first time he stepped on the field. I mean, I remember one of the first plays he played. I said, yeah, he can play a little bit.
No, his first game was when what's his face? Long time ago, Lima was out. He's like, it was the first time Lima was ever out. He'd been playing for 3 years at that point, I think. And I remember, I had a few at the student section. Like, well, we're losing, and everyone was like, what? Why? It was like, oh, well, Lima's out. And he's like, well, okay. And then Isaiah Lee came out there and just made it look like we couldn't even tell Lima wasn't out there, and Isaiah Lee kept his red shirt still, and now he's still at Iowa State, and thank God.
It was his true freshman year, right?
He still kept his red shirt, and he was within the four games, and man, I'm glad he did because he's still around, and
And now he's big and strong. That was what he was. I remember that game as well. Ray's back, if you remember, was the injury. But when you look at what he's doing now, like that, now he's trained. He's at a high level. Like if he's not first, maybe second team All Big 12 by the end of this year, I'll be shocked. Like it's hard to find someone that's going to be as explosive and as good as what he's become. He is really good right now. Like from 2 practices, he is outstanding football player right
So
now.
when you say that he's gotten stronger, do you know like numbers of what these guys are hang cleaning or any? Do they even track that where you could see it, or is that just something that
they don't share that with me? I don't see that. They track them really close.
Sure.
They know how many miles per hour the wide receivers and other players are running. So when you see those catapult systems, they know how fast everybody's running on the field. And so I will tell you, that's top secret. They don't share that with me. I don't want them to, because I'll slip. Right. Like, so and so ran 40 mile an hour, whatever.
Right.
But
yeah.
They know where I could see it is when you see they call it board drill. It's one-on-one where it's the defensive tackle versus an offensive lineman, and they're lining up and they are going head-to-head, face-to-face. And the board is you have to stay on the board. So a foot on each side of this board, and they're going to go after it. And when you watch what he's able to do to big human beings, it's really impressive how explosive he is. So in that drill alone, you can tell a lot about your nose guard, and he's really good right now.
And did J.R. Singleton get moved outside too then, or
he'll be both? He'll go inside and outside,
Okay.
and he's outstanding too. He was playing great,
right?
And then unfortunately got hurt, but he's going to be really good inside outside. Most people don't know this name yet, but Tyler Onyedum is number 11 when you see him this year. He'll be inside and out. He's just as big. Dominic Orange, freshman, he'll be mostly inside. He is a big human being.
He's from Kansas City.
And
I heard he can really run.
He
too.
can, and if you look, he was a late minute pickup. So
Yes.
back to Derek Hoosier, he came in last minute, and I was actually sitting in his office maybe a day or two after he committed. He goes, "This guy's gonna be a player."
Wow.
And then he came in for spring ball, and you watch one pass rush drill, and he's like, "Yep, this guy's a player." We've got another one, and that defensive line room is stacked with talent right now. I mean, really stacked with talent. There's 3 to 4 draft picks in that room, that says a lot for what's going on. And that's not going to happen in 1 year, but over their careers, I think there's 3 to 4 draft picks, whatever year they decide to go out.
Yeah,
Wow, that's good news.
This is something different than we're used to.
Yeah.
But we've been obviously Will McDonald's going to be in the NFL someday, and Jaquan Bailey's is he still playing in
I don't know.
preseason or not? I haven't heard much from him.
Wazriki still with the Broncos. Right?
Yeah, we've had like every Campbell recruit from when they were freshmen ended up being just exactly built into exactly how I thought they would, because they just built into all Big 12 players, and now we're seeing sounds like we're gonna see that happen again if Ryan's correct.
Yeah. So but you remember the days that if we have one injury like the Lima thing, it's over.
It was.
That's where Thomas was coming from that day. I mean,
Yeah, I was like, all right, well,
yeah, all of a
pack
sudden
up things.
we're
Let's go.
telling the manager to go to the locker room and put some pads on 10 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's just being an Iowa State fan as long as I've been. That's the biggest change with Matt is our depth is so much better than it's ever been.
Right. When you look at last year, everyone panicked. Hasheem Young's leaving. Oh my goodness, it was like all year I talked about on the radio on my show and throughout the season was like, no, this Bo Freeler kid. This Bo Freeler kid. He's when you go to practice, you look at him, you're like, why is he not playing outside linebacker? He's that size, but when you put him on the back end of this thing, oh, he's special. Like he is special. He is, in my opinion, last year was better than Hasheem, and I know he's better than him this year. So again, and that Hasheem was good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the difference is the staff's been able to recruit guys that can compete right away, and it pushes the envelope. And then you look at the running back room right now. Jarrell Brock's done nothing but good things for this program, and he's a 4-star out of high school. He's a great recruit, and he's always done good things. But now you have Eli Sanders, nipping at him. Cartavius Norton, who we haven't seen yet, but
they put him on social media last week, and everybody's
I
talking
couldn't
about
believe
it.
they showed that. But I've been watching that when you see this kid play, he's ready. I mean, they don't look like that coming out of high school. He's special. Like he is a special athlete. So
How tall is he?
Cartavius he's a little shorter than Brees, but taller than David. He's actually a really good mix between David Montgomery and Brees Hall. He has that overall speed like Brees, maybe not that top end. Like Brees had some special top end speed, but he's probably a little more physical like David was at point of attack. He's really physical when he gets to the line of scrimmage and attacks that line of scrimmage. So he's really special. He's a really good running back, but so is Eli Sanders, Deion Silas, Jairo Brock. Like there's 4 guys. Good luck picking which one's playing.
Right.
So the depth there is really good right now.
Well, Jarrell is such a great pass blocker too. I mean,
is.
when obviously when he came in for Brees, he had beat him out in that role because it was almost like you were scouting him. You said, Jarrell's coming in. We're gonna throw it because he was such a good blocker.
He's not afraid of contact.
at
all.
all. And I saw him this summer. Will went down to one of the prospect camps. And I saw Jarrell there. He had like a cut-off shirt and a hat on. I said, he looked like an MMA fighter.
Yeah, he's bigger than you think.
Oh, my goodness, he's a big kid.
Yeah.
I think J.R. Singleton was there, too. I mean, but I've said this on one of the ones we did in June. I said and watch Hunter Deckers play catch with Jalen Noel right-handed. He was throwing the ball, playing catch with him right hand and his left-handed quarterback. And I was just sitting there watching. Why is he doing this? But it looked like he was right-handed.
That's going to become a thing in the future. I haven't seen it in their practice, but you're starting to see quarterbacks when they roll out left, roll out right, throw right. So
wow,
I've seen high school kids. Yeah, they're starting to work on it because you get in situations where you can pop it out. So I think that's probably 5 to 10 years away. But as kids it's getting that tight, as you can do something like that you might as well work on it.
Wow.
It's like a left-handed layup, right? Like,
Yeah.
so once you get that, your game expands. And
I remember when Mahomes did it for the first time. Everybody went bananas that he was throwing it with his other hand. I mean,
they're not going to sit in the pocket throwing ambidextrous. It's just more for special situations, rolling out each direction. It does give you an advantage.
Yeah. And do you think that the fact that Hunter is left-handed is going to? I mean, is that just a non-starter as far as that being an effect on the way teams play him or the way they line up and push him one side or the other?
Yeah, I don't think so. When you watch him play, he's really good. I mean, he is really good. I was at practice last week and watching him throw some deep balls, and the way it comes off his hand is so special. So it's going to add 20 yards to our offense, meaning it's going to open the field up 20 yards down the field. And now we have some speed guys that can go over the top, Jalen Knoll, but also Dimitri Stanley, this kid from Colorado. Wait till you see this kid play. And his hands are great. He's not the biggest receiver, but it doesn't matter. He's so fast. And he can get the ball. Hunter will get the ball downfield to him. He can. His arm strength is really solid. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, and he's, we were talking last time that I really am cheering for Jarrell and really cheering for Hunter because those guys could have easily gone the transfer route 2 years ago, and they've paid their dues. And nobody deserves more success than Hunter and Jarrell just because of that. I mean, Jarrell, like you said, came in more highly touted than Brees, if I remember right, and has been paying his dues. And I'd love to see him be a one and done this year. It'd be kind of fun.
It would be. I mean, you don't want to lose him, but again, he could be the next one to go out. Cortavius is going to be the next one. Eli Sanders. If you remember Eli, his big game was Iowa. And then they we put the cap on him, redshirt him, and he's going to stay another year. But he was a really good at the end of the first half. He actually was helping the drive, and the end of the second half when they had a scoring drive, he was in there as well. So he's a really good, fast athlete out there right now. So that is the team speed we've never had. I can guarantee we've never had team speed like we've had right now. It's unbelievable.
And having speed up front, we were talking about Isaiah, having Wazirike, I thought, had gotten faster as his career went along, and obviously Will can run down quarterbacks. I mean, I don't think you can. I mean, can you underestimate the importance of having defensive linemen that can run? No. I mean, in this day and age, if you have somebody like, we had a quarterback we played last year that was kind of a statue, but that was pretty good. Was it the Baylor quarterback? I don't know. I don't remember, but any of those guys that are like the Tom Brady type, that they're not going to run away from these guys.
No, and that's the thing, that they're athletic up front, and they said they're so deep. Again, there's only 3 of them, obviously, the way we run this 3-man front. There's a chance we go to a 4-man front. They've never shown it, but the athletes are in the room. So Coach Campbell's always done a really nice job adjusting the talent. When he first got to Iowa State, we hardly played tight ends. We was all 4 wide and spread, still run the RPO, but at the same time, it was more of a spread offense. And then when we had Charlie and when we had him and Chase, obviously that changed, and Dylan Sainer, and that changed everything. Like, wait a minute, these are the 3 best. And so I think on defense, if throughout the season, there'd be chances for us to drop into 4 linemen, and we've got the horses to do it right now. And it's not like the linebackers are not deserving, but there's 4 really good defensive backs on the field at the time, or 5 defensive backs on the time. At any time, it's going to be good. It's deep. And again, I'm so excited, but last year, we won 7 games. Why are you so excited? Well, at Texas Tech, they drop a 62-yard field goal.
Like the record.
You're right.
That was the record.
Yeah. And I was standing underneath the uprights when that goes through, just like, oh. And then you go to West Virginia and you lose a close one. Then you go to Baylor and you drop a
I was at that one. I was
at Baylor?
Yeah.
He was at West Virginia,
I even have the video of the refs putting his hands up when Brees came out where he fumbled. Right.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
It was. And there's a few things actually at Oklahoma that if they don't happen at the end of the first half, the fumble return for a touchdown, that game's different.
Yeah.
And so it's everyone's like, oh, we're 7 wins. We didn't do the small things to win those games, and there's no doubt we didn't do the small things to win those games. There was never a talent issue. There's never in any game we were in. There's never like, oh wow, they all got they have us right now. It's never been that way. So that's the good thing is that we are at a place in this program where our starters that were bringing us the top talent are now being pushed by guys behind them that no one knows about, and that's again we're back to that recruiting conversation. They've built the cupboards up in Ames where there's competition every single day at every single position.
So give us a name of somebody that, we each follow it fairly closely. I mean, I drive a lot for work, so I'm listening to every podcast I get my hands on. But give me a name that jumps off the top of your head that is, like Jeremiah Cooper. Is that the kid from El Paso? Any of these other guys that have just shown up on the scene?
So I will give you a couple that I think will pop off this year. Number one, Tyler Onyedum's the one I've given. No one knows who Tyler Onyedum is, number 11. He'll be a big timer. Tavon Kyle, everybody knows who Tavon Kyle is. He's been around, but he's never been on a productive side of the field, right? He hasn't been out there a ton. When I've been to practice, he is on top of his game. He is really on top of his game. But yeah, defensively, everyone knows who Colby Reeder is now. It's Mike Rose as a junior, is what I'm calling him.
Is that the kid? That's the kid from kid from Delaware.
Delaware,
yeah.
Yep. And he's the same physical stature. He looks just like him. He's really big, moves around. And Mike was hurt last year. Mike was at like 80, maybe 70% most of the year. Mike had a great junior year. Colby looks like Mike is junior year, and that's what you're going to get, I think, out of someone like him coming in. So again, those are the ones you haven't seen. Cartavis Norton, I think he's going to be someone that'll pop off that we haven't seen yet, but his name's not a secret. Again, these names are starting to leak because it's that exciting at practice watching these guys perform.
Cartavius has got an easy name to remember too. I mean, it's not like Steve. I mean, when you have a name like that and you're good, everybody remembers who you are. Like Brees. I mean, Brees was a unique name, and once he caught fire, he's like everybody knows who Brees is.
Right.
Your mention of how this Reeder kid is similar to Mike Rose. Actually, when I was at the West Virginia game, I actually ran right as I was going into the stadium, ran into Mike Rose's parents, and then my uncle was like obviously going to talk to him, and actually the national anthem was going on, but it didn't stop my uncle from asking him questions the whole time, and yeah, he was just, and it was like, okay, I get to the stadium, okay, Mike Rose not playing. Like, okay, the first time he's not played his whole career. And I was like, oh boy, well, see how this goes. Like, I'm not trashing the players that are playing, but Mike Rose was missed, and it's just nice to see that we have hopefully a clone version of Mike Rose, or just a version of him, just to fill that void, because Mike Rose is pretty good.
He's real good.
Yeah, I remember the first snap we saw Mike play. It was that South Dakota State game that got rained out, and they stood under the overhang for however many hours. And I think we got 3 defensive snaps in, and the first play I see Rose going from sideline to sideline.
Yeah, that was
his freshman year.
Yeah, he was like 19 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the key, so maybe not a name everyone knows, but I think the most underrated thing that happened to this team is Orion Vance coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Defensively. And because when he's healthy in the inside, he wasn't healthy last year at all. He tore up his hamstring, couldn't play. Gary Vaughn's good in the middle. He's really good on the outside, And so in having Orion in the middle, like 250, 260 pounds, really solidifies that defense between the tackles. And it allows us to sit with 3 defensive linemen, 1 middle linebacker, and then you don't have to bring as many people into the box because he's so powerful inside. So I think he's the most underrated thing that happened in the offseason that people aren't really thinking about that's going to play a big part in this year.
He's from Cedar Rapids originally too, isn't he?
He is. And if Bo Freeler stays healthy, Orion Vance stays healthy, and we're relatively healthy across the board beyond that, this has a chance of being a top 10, 15 defense in the nation this year.
Wow.
It really does. It is a solid defense because of the depth. Where you can't really replace those guys. When I look around there, like there's some talent behind them, but to say that you're going to put a 250-pound middle linebacker in right behind them, they're not in there. There's some young people that are there, but they're not there yet. Where Orion is and Bo's just so special back there, and he's in the run fits as well. So he's basically covering gap run responsibilities on every run play or most run plays.
Yeah, because he lead the bowl game in tackles for our defense.
He did 15.
Yeah, it's Clemson. I mean, it wasn't.
Did you feel like we were out talented?
No, I mean that's what I was going to say. I mean, Notre Dame obviously there was a gap.
There
I mean,
was.
that was Notre
Claypool.
Dame looked a lot better than us.
Claypool was pretty good.
Yeah, and
Oh,
but
gosh.
I didn't think against him, and I have a good friend that lives that's a huge Clemson donor. I mean, and they were all saying how many Clemson guys didn't play. I said, well, we had a lot of guys sitting too. I mean, so that's the whole game. That's another discussion with bowl games with guys sitting, which I didn't blame any of them for not playing. But yeah, no, we were right in it. It was fun. I mean, it was so much fun to see the Iowa State helmet next to the Clemson paw on a bowl game on national TV, and
It was.
yeah. So
And you're right with them.
yeah, so let me ask you a question. This is kind of off the subject a little bit, but when you were playing, I was just talking to him about this before you got here. When you look at Iowa State basketball players, most of the big fans can recognize players because you see them on TV or on the news, whatever. I didn't know what Will McDonald looked like until probably about 12 months ago because you're always wearing helmets and you got visors now. So when you were playing, did you get recognized as often as some of the other guys that because you had a helmet on all the time too? Do you think that's a factor with some of these guys that get out they're want selfies and stuff now because they just don't know who they are? Like I'm not sure if Bo Freeler walked down the street if I would know him from recognizing if his jersey on I'd recognize him, but not.
Who gets interviewed is who gets recognized, really. Who goes
Right.
on TV. So, like, Sage Rosenfels, you'd remember
Right,
him.
sure, yeah.
They all have helmets on. Same thing for, any quarterback. You're always going to know who they are just because they're recognizable. Defensive lineman, offensive lineman, no, you kind of blend in, and you know that when you're down in those positions. And you're going to know the wide receivers, running backs. Now, Will, he's not really active on social media. He's not really active in the media. He's a really simple person. He's a hard worker. You know his motor. You watch him
Right.
play. He runs at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But when you see him play, it's special. But you're right. He's not. There's a lot of players that are not recognizable.
Right.
I even have to learn them when I get to practice. Like, okay, now who's that?
Right,
Who's that?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's who this is. So I get it. You have a helmet on, but that's the coolest thing about football. Is when you go play and you have a helmet on, no one can see you. You're there as your guide. It's not about you
Sure,
standing
yeah.
out. And so that celebration usually has to do with the team versus like, hey, you hit a three and you're doing a dance and, it's just, which is cool. I did it too when I could hit one, but it's just different about football. No, it's not an individual sport at all because of that, being anonymous on the football field.
Probably why Emmitt Smith started pulling his helmet off when they changed the rule that you couldn't. Emmitt Smith used to score a touchdown and rip his helmet off. I'm sure that was probably where it was coming from.
Yeah, you want fans to recognize it, and you can sell that, right? You can
Right.
sell that image, basically. They want people to see this face and what he was.
Well, I was just thinking back, and we've been basketball fans forever, and I would recognize the guy that doesn't play. Like, who's the kid from Central Decatur this year? There's a walk-on that never played.
Who?
The walk-on we had at basketball this year. He was from Central Decatur. His name's... But I would know. It doesn't matter. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. But I would recognize him if I saw him walking into Buffalo Wild Wings. But some of the offensive linemen, who I follow the offensive linemen pretty close, I just don't know what they look like. It's just a football thing.
No, but you know when you sit next to him on an airplane.
Oh, I'm sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's when you pick up on those guys. You don't see 300-pound 20-year-olds running around.
No.
They're in great shape. So they're probably more recognizable for their size. People just don't know their names or who they are.
So who's going to stand out? Who's been standing out on the offensive line? I mean, last year you talked about the Miller kid from Jefferson. That sounds like his brother's going to go play college basketball or college football now too, not at Iowa State. But is there any other names or offensive linemen that stand out off the top of your head?
Tyler Morrow is a backup that I think we watched at practice. I think is going to be really good. A tackle. He's out of Davenport. They say he's 286. He looks like he's 250, meaning I think that he could weigh 320 to 330 someday. I don't know how tall he is, probably 6'7" height, and really powerful. So I think he's a name that you'll see get into that mix sometime this year, relatively early. But I do like the front right now. I think it's a good front. Tyler Miller's good. He struggled at like the first 1 or 2, 3 series out against Clemson. Like that's ridiculous speed on the field. And then he settled in and I thought he had a great game beyond those first couple series. Daryl Simmons, I think, is going to have a great year for us. He's getting older and having a really good camp. I've been talking to the coaches about him. They're really excited about what he can do. And then Downing, obviously, is really good at center. I think that solidifies us in the middle. And I don't know if he's the best, but he's probably my favorite when you look at how tough he is Jared Hufford. When you watch how he plays the game, he's kind of a big ugly, like where he wants to, he's physical, he's a bulldozer, and he brings the attitude. In my eyes, I feel like he's the switch that turns that offensive line on when he plays physical, and he's the guy you can get behind. when you look at the Kansas State game, for example, last year, a lot of those big runs were right behind him. And he was a really good football player for us last year. But I think he can be the person that mentally and physically turns it on for us. And so Jared Hufford's one that you just watch out for him. Watch him play. He's fun to watch play the game.
Was like during the Brees Hall like broke the record, right? And then right after it is like when all the Campbell rumors was like started. So like you were probably more in that than us, obviously. So like was it noisy around that time, like in the circles of Iowa State, or is it just like hush hush, like just focus on we just beat TCU, like like people because like right, it did not take very long after the game. It was like right away, obviously, like everyone's like freaking out, like we're losing. But it was like we just had Iowa State has a school like a record in NCAA history now, and everyone's freaking out. And even my dad was like got paranoid and texted you right away, and I was like, Dad, you should have done that. Like that's stupid because like we just want to know so fast because everyone needs to know. Be like, okay, I'm uneasy with this. I need to know right now. Like, are we okay? Because like, how was it? Like, how you could have information that a lot of people ask. Like my dad, like, is he leaving or is he staying?
It was very quiet in the locker room, right, and around the team. I will say that the players say, yeah, like look, the guy gets USC $10 million a year, and you're making $4 million. Go home and tell your spouse you turned $6 million a year away.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't think any player would not understand. Mm-hmm. That's what makes Coach Campbell cool. He's never done this about the money. This has never been about the money for him. Now I'm sure I can't imagine. I've never been offered $10 million a year to do a job.
And like a private jet for your family for personal use. Like,
exactly.
It's basically offered Lincoln anything he wanted.
Yeah, But if you remember, that's when they were talking about Coach Campbell going out to USC. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of their donors saying we've got him and he's coming, right? Like that was the rumor, and now whether that's real or that was like a little bait, and then we go over here and take Lincoln. But I don't know the backstory. Jamie Pollard, I think, has done an amazing job managing this, and the reason why he'll give everything he possibly can inside of his system to keep him, and wants to keep him, and respects him a great deal, but also understands I can only do so much. You know, you can only go so far, and he's going to give him everything he possibly can. But sometimes when someone from USC walks in with $10 million a year versus our $4 million, we don't have that extra $6 million. You know, and I think that's where it's going to play into the future with these TV deals is. Some of these schools they're going to write any check that they want to, basically for anyone they want to get. And then it's going to come down to the coach or the person, okay, do I like Ames? Can I stay in Ames? Or do I want to go be a coach for 2 to 4 years and probably get fired or have a really good chance of getting fired? Because those don't turn out very well usually.
Right.
Like if you think about Texas, Texas is a great example.
Yeah.
Charlie Strong's a great coach. He's gone. He kind of disappeared. He's got money, but he's gone.
Sure, right.
And so it's not going great there right now either. So, I mean, I'm not saying Sarkisian can't turn it, but at the same time, it's not looking like he's going to turn it, other than he's got some high-profile recruits like they have the last 5 to 10 years. So, again, you look at the carousel that happens once coaches start bouncing, rarely does it work like Nick Saban. Dabo built that. Dabo, they were good with the Bowden, but they weren't what Dabo was able to do. And he was, by the way, was on the staff. You know what I mean? So he just came up through the system, and that's how he built that program.
Nebraska's kind of an example of that too. I mean,
it's an amazing example.
Yeah, yep. I mean, 1995, they're world beaters, and then Solich isn't good enough for him, and they send him to Ohio, and comes in Bo Pelini, and they fumble it 19 times against us, and we beat them 7-6 or whatever that one game was. But
absolutely, so it's a different world right now in the coaching world. But I think one thing I know about Coach Campbell, he's extremely intelligent and not emotional. Where he doesn't make emotional decisions that way, and so I'm sure things have been. I know things have been thrown at him. But again, I think it whenever you see it on the news, it's usually not true.
Right?
Because literally, they took the clip of him crying, being emotional about senior day, and it's like, oh, is he leaving? Mm-hmm. Like, is that what?
Right, everybody's right.
That's why I was like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. And there's like, oh man, I was watching the game, we're mad. We're like, Brees just broke the record. We're just like, but yeah, we're happy, but like this other thing that we heard on social media, that's why social media is not the best thing in the world.
No. Fred Hoiberg was right. Twitter will be the end of us. He said that 10 years ago.
But yeah, it's just the way the life is that I was an Iowa State fan. Just now, it's just instant. Like, oh, you're broken. right there. Oh,
It's
you're
the roller coaster, and
yeah,
like
it's
I've always said, the
it's
only
terrible.
one that gets hurt on a roller coaster is the one that jumps off. So,
But now it's like Campbell staying. We got JJ Cole. We got like JJ Cole reminds me exactly of what Alan Lazard was doing, but just on a way different level. Because like Alan Lazard grew up an Iowa State fan. Like he was showing the pictures after he committed. Like, yeah, I'm an Iowa State fan, so I'm not going anywhere, and I'm also bringing a bunch of my friends with me and like going around and recruiting.
Jameson Patton.
That's
I
why.
mean,
That's
yeah.
why I like feel like that's what the like people are hyped about for like the future, but we're not even focusing on what players we have right now, which I think is going to be a good thing for our fan base because like last year was fun and all going into last year, but we kind of knew like we had the margin of error. Iowa State is still very thin, and we kind of learned that again. And it's just I like being the underdog way better than being on TV and ESPN. Like, oh, this Brees Hall and like even like Tariq Milton, like he did a great player. He was a great player at Iowa State, now at Texas, but like he even got like a shout out on, and he didn't really do much. He's obviously I don't know if he was hurt or not. I'm saying because like Jalen Noel kind of took his spot, but he was talked about on College Game Day. Now we're trying to get information out of Ryan Harklau, even to get anything out of him. That back then we just were hearing on ESPN. Now we have to come to Sound Sirens and get the information. You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I don't. This place and what he's done there, Coach Campbell and staff, what they've built. This is not temporary. Like we are going to be back on ESPN. We're going to be on Game Day. We're going to be ranked in the top 25. Like I think this year, I really believe that. I think at some point this year we'll be ranked in the top 25.
Hopefully on September 11th.
Yeah, and I can say that because I'm not the coaching staff or player, but I think that it's there. Like we've had the best recruiting classes we've ever had at Iowa State, stack to stack to stack. So it's not like we're like, oh crap, we got to wait for that magical senior class to come through. Like watching Brock Purdy, show glimpses of hope, and then by the time they're a senior, they have greatness. Like that is not the same locker room that we're all used to. I mean, I grew up an Iowa State fan. I know what you're talking about. That's not what it's like there right now. It's just not like that names. There's competition to who. Jairell Barack, any other year, starter, named it. I don't know who's behind him, but Jairell's a starter. Jairell has 3 guys nipping at his heels right now to try to play and beat him out, and could. So that's what's changed. So again, I think that it's not the old like, oh, we'll see what we can do this year. Maybe in 3 years we can stack a run together. I think this year we can stack a run together.
So who do you think is going to be the name of the backup quarterback? If you had to pick today, or you don't have to. You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Cook and Rocco are both really good. I think those are the two that it's between when I watch what's going on. I mean, I've never said, okay, here's a 2, 3. I don't know where they're even at the depth chart right now. When you watch them, I think it's gonna be Rocco's gonna be hard to beat out. But Cook is too. So you watch both of them. They're really close right now, and so it's funny because I loved his dad, Marv Cook, when he played at Iowa, was a tight end. That was a guy I loved watching and growing up and paying attention to. But Rocco Brecht he's Brock Purdy. It reminds me of Brock Purdy as a freshman. He's so accurate. He's really similar stature, plays really confidently, and he can fire. He's really consistent thrower. So again, So seeing that, I don't know. I'm not going to call one, but I think that there's a really good competition going on right now between Cook and
that's good news.
Rocco Brecht.
I mean, if you got a competition for the backup quarterback, things are okay.
It is.
I mean,
and they're both good. They can play.
Marv was pretty good back in the day for West Branch.
But I want to be clear. We need Hunter Decker to stay healthy.
Oh, right. No, you're exactly. We're not going to play this game where like in Iowa City where the favorite player on the team is the backup quarterback. Which has happened many years down there.
Yeah, right. So like I'm one position group I've been interested in most is like obviously Charlie Kohler was in Chase Allen and were just staples for their entire career, and now it's just like the biggest question mark is who's filling those. Like who are a couple of players that you've seen that are gonna. What's your expectations for that group? Do you have high expectations? Is it like just take those kids might take time to develop because Charlie Kohler was like. Right away, as a freshman, came in as a stud.
So that's a good question, and this is the position in the room I don't know because it's the quietest. Deshaun Haneke, I think, can be a really good receiver. I do think he'll be one down the field. Do I think he's a blocker? I don't know yet. Can you play that physical all the time? But I know he's a good threat. Thank God for Jared Russ. Jared Russ is solid. He's all Big 12. He'll be all Big 12 again this year. He's going to play more the F, the tight end that's an F, where they put him back in the fullback. It's more of a fullback than a tight end position. But he's rock solid there. Dean is going to be someone that'll compete for a spot as well. So again, I don't have a lot of good feedback in the tight end room right now because I don't know. Tyler Moore, I heard, is having a really good camp, but I don't. But I haven't. We'll need to see it on September 3rd. I think what you'll see September 3rd, you'll see 5 tight ends play. And so
because there's the freshmen have been playing pretty well too.
Very well, yep. Out of Chanhassen, Minnesota, like recruit we got out of there, it had 3 touchdowns in a scrimmage, like really good, But again, he's trying to stand out in a room that's wide open at this point. So really good.
So you think it's similar to like when Brees's freshman year was like Johnny Lang and Brees and there's some other ones. I forgot. Kenny was still there.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of them, but it was by committee for like the whole season. Then eventually Brees like took it. So you think that's kind of what's similar with the tight ends. This group's going to be like.
I do. I really think that's what's going to be. I think that you will see 4 to 5 guys play September 3rd, maybe more. I think as you whittle through the season, you might find your 2 to 3, but right away I think it'll be 4 to 5, and then find your guys as you go through the season. It's hard to. You can say someone's playing great on camp, but when the light bulbs pop on and there's 60,000 fans, then we know who can play.
It's different, yeah.
It is different.
And like even like the recruiting stuff, like you have to show up. Like even like when I was little, like I was obviously wishing Iowa State was better, so I followed every recruiting. Like, hey, we're a little better here, but like you have to even like as Iowa State fans always pick on this guy. Obviously, he's probably not going to listen to this podcast. Bo Williams. Bo Williams came from Florida, and like he was a big running back. He was like a 4-star recruit. Like, all right, we're good. Like don't worry about.
He had like one good run.
He had one good run against Texas A&M, and then he didn't even touch the ball next. So like, it's just nice to have a coach that's showing us a track record. Even running backs. Think of even before Campbell got here, Kareem Hunt, Kenny Nwangu, Dave Montgomery, and Brees Hall, and now sounds like we got some dogs.
So am I hearing this right, that the Vikings are pronouncing Kenny's last name differently than we pronounced it for 4 years?
How do they pronounce? I don't know how they're.
I thought I heard somebody say that they're pronouncing it like, and I'll butcher it if I do it, but it was not Nwangu.
Okay.
I mean, it was something. And I'm wondering either we got it wrong for that many years, or the Vikings are still getting it wrong after 2 years.
You better take that out with Paul Allen.
Yeah, right, exactly. So this is you're heading into your second year in this role, right? Because we lost you as our color commentator for our high school games.
Right. Of course, we go to the semifinals.
Sure, right.
Sure, I don't do that.
Yeah. So then, but we also lost our other radio guy now this year too. So that's kind of that doesn't matter. But so what's been the funnest part of this job? What's been the most challenging part of this job?
The most fun is to be around it, not in it. You have to earn your right to be in it. And what I mean by that, you have to have blood, sweat, tears. You got to bleed. That's in it. But to be close enough to it to watch it and to see it, how things operate, and it's just like brings you back to like when you played, and you're at this high level of adrenaline and seeing how things work, and going in the locker room at halftime and listening to what's going on, how you're going to come back out. So being around the energy inside of the team has been the most rewarding thing. And I've used a lot of Campbell's stuff at my job now. Like, I mean, watching team speeches, how he approaches meetings, how he talks to players, what he's done after losses, wins, everything. Honestly, he's an individual that if you just really pay attention to, you can steal about 90% of it and go try to apply it. The most difficult thing and challenging thing is, 7 wins, on the expectations that were extremely high. And we weren't that far off. If I thought we were playing bad or we deserved to lose, I would have said, "Hey, we need to shore this up." But honestly, we were right there every time at Baylor. I mean, I just remember that Baylor. That was awful.
That return kickoff for touchdown. Oh
yeah,
gosh! And then there was one punt that was a shank punt that they took back, and our defense was playing lights out because Baylor, the offense they were just going up and down the field the first half. This obviously, hopefully Iowa State fans have a good memory of us about these games, because I remember the first half was like we could not stop the nosebleed, and then we finally locked up because Haycock and the adjustments, he's always just spot on when it comes to the Big 12, and we locked him up, and we just had just like the little things sometimes we just mess up on them, and we just that's what it came down to. We lost a couple of games like that, and
We did.
gosh,
And
it's
you got to
all-
go explain it to your fan base when they're driving away from the stadium.
Right.
You know, and I think that that's what you're trying to do is give them a picture of the truth. You know, at the same time, here's what happened. You know, but at the same time, there wasn't. I could never come back in there and say, "Wow, we got hammered today. We didn't. You know, we this guy, this position group of this." No, we lost on a 62-yard field goal. We lost because we missed a wide open tight end in the back of the end zone against West Virginia. We lost to Oklahoma because we had a fumble strip recovery for a touchdown at the end of the first half. By the way, we're going in to score to finish the first half. So it was probably a 10 to 14 point swing at that point in the game. So you look at all those games. Baylor, I mean, you fumbled a 2-point conversion on something that he's going to probably pull that off right there as well. So that was the hardest part, is trying to explain to our fan base what's going on when it was literally inches away from another, probably a 10-win season.
Right.
I mean, inches away from a 10-win season. Now you look at the over/under out there, it's 6.5. I'm like, they're crazy. You know?
Yeah, that's what DraftKings. I checked it today. Somebody said it. DraftKings is 6.5 is the over/under on wins.
There's no way. I mean, I'm not giving gambling advice, but I'm just saying that this is too talented of a team. This team is too talented for that.
Yeah.
It just is. There's too much talent in that room for a 6.5 spot.
So when you say you have to explain to the fan base, you're talking about on the radio. You don't have morons like me texting you saying what the hell happened, or or saying why didn't we do this, or why didn't we do this? Are you dealing with that, or you're just talking about explaining stuff on the radio?
To the radio, I want the fan. When you go home and anytime you have a failure, you want to know what happened. Like, what happened? How did that just happen? And when you're walking up to the press box, excuse me, after the game, you're trying to put that together, and you're like, okay, how do I explain what just happened and how close that really was? Because a common fan, like 80% of the fan base, if you didn't play it or weren't around it, and you're like, how do we keep losing by 3? It's that might be 4 plays in an 80-play game that it came down to, and here's where we missed on. So it's not people asking me on the side or having, hey, what happened there. It's more about giving our fan base, keeping them excited. When appropriate, and showing them that, like, we're there. We are that close. If we weren't, there's no way we're going down to Orlando at the end of the year to play Clemson on 7 wins. The professionals knew that. You look at ESPN, they always had us ranked way higher than what our record was. They understood, and so I think that when you look at this team, they were plays away from a 10-win season, not quarters, or not like, oh, if we would have played the second half. It's like literally they were plays away from 10 wins last year.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I remember the day when we'd win the first half almost all the time, and they get blown out.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just the way it went. But then that was obviously a depth issue and everything else that goes along with it. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, we've really enjoyed listening to you. I mean, it's always fun to have somebody that's doing it. I mean, you're the 2 of the last 3 that I've known personally, and but I just I really haven't got a chance to talk to you except maybe at a basketball game about you got to travel a lot more. You're probably gone from your family quite a bit more, and I'm assuming you haven't bought a house in the Caymans on what you're making on this either. And so, I mean, it's purely from your passion of Iowa State football. I mean, and everybody appreciates it because I think every once in a while I'll catch you kind of speaking over everybody's head about like schemes or whatever, and then you do a really good job of dumbing it down for people like me to try to understand what the heck's going on. So it's been a lot of fun.
I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun, and that coaching staff treats me extremely well, and they treat everyone around them well. They want all the past players to come back and be around. If you are a past player and you want to go to practice, that door is open anytime you want it to be. And that's the cool thing that he's done there, is it just opened up not just to myself but all the past players, and it's an environment that's amazing. It's built on integrity. But they always talk about culture, but their integrity is strong, which makes their culture great. And I think that's why players want to go play for him, is they understand what he's telling them is exactly what's going to happen when they show up day one on campus. So it's a great place to be right now.
I mean, Matt Campbell, I've never met the man. I mean, I saw him standing on our sidelines again when we played at Gilbert last year, and that's probably about as close as I've ever come proximity from him. But just listening to him being interviewed in the summer when he's gotten Chris Williams, interviews him every once in a while, and he's talking about books that he read. Mm-hmm. And I've actually tried to keep track of some of the books he mentions every once in a while. And one of them that I read this summer was by Jocko, the Navy SEAL, called Extreme Ownership. And it's really similar to what seems like what Campbell's preaching to these kids. I mean, if you can own your mistakes, it just gives you a lot more integrity.
It does. He's given me books to read. I'll drop one. I've dropped one in his office, and he's told me, "Hey, you got to check this one out." And he's a constant student in trying to get better. And he reads a lot more than I do. I try to keep up, but I don't. He doesn't ever rest. That's what I've learned. That he never shuts it down. And now he's very not at the high level. You can't be around him. He's a really common person. Like he's really easy to be and hang around with, but he never stops. Like he's always going towards what he wants to get done. And he's just really focused and a disciplined human. So again, he makes me better just being around the program.
Stillness is the key is the one that is a small book. And I've actually heard the guy that wrote it, and I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. He was just on Rogan like 2 weeks ago. But Stillness is the Key was a book that it wasn't a long read. It wasn't flashy by any means, but it really made you think. It was almost like some of the philosophical books from the Greek philosophers when you read it, just thinking about, you have to appreciate when things are quiet and not have to, because I think we're in a really noisy world right now. And, one of my favorite times of the day is when I get up before anybody else does and there's no TV on, there's just chasing the dog around maybe. And this all comes from him talking about that book on a podcast somewhere. So
it is greatest time of the day. That's why it's a race to get up before the kids in the house do. Cause
right.
You get your time,
right.
It's an amazing time.
Yeah.
So as a fan of Iowa State, that my common theme of like Campbell era, like is like obviously there's complain about a lot of things as Iowa State fan, but we can find things to complain about like I do. But so the special teams has always been just really on my nerves. Is that going to improve this year? You think? Do you see that not being as an issue as like obviously there was an issue sometimes like during the 2020 year because we didn't punt very much because we scored almost every time, Yep. But like, do you think this new 5-star punter kid is gonna make it so we don't even have to think about it anymore?
So if you know something about Coach Campbell, he doesn't love to walk a freshman on the field ever, never. I mean, it's not what he wants to do. He doesn't want to put them in a situation they're not prepared for, ready for. You can go to practice all you want, but like I said earlier, when those lights pop on, it's a different game. And so, I don't know what you're going to see for punter, who's going to be starting punter. I know there's a wide open there for kicker right now for field goals. Like there is for a place kicker. We don't have. I don't think they've locked that down yet, and that's okay. That's open competition. So I can tell you this: they work on it all the time through camp. When we were at camp, the last practice I went to, they spent a half hour just on special teams. They're only out there for 90 minutes, so a third of the practice was on special teams, kickoff, kick return, and so it's not like they don't work on it. They've had some misfortunes in that game. The good news is this. I think Jalen Knoll changes special teams for us this year. I think you'll see him bring a couple back, whether it's a punt return or possibly a kickoff return. And so we have the speed guy now that can put it on them. And last year Baylor did kill us, but that kid was all Big 12 and he was an All-American kick returner. And that's we have that guy now. But yes, it has cost us. Well, it cost us the Iowa game. Their punter, for example,
he was good.
All-world that day.
Yeah.
He flipped the field. We beat them in yardage by far.
Right.
But then we start forcing some things because of bad field position, then the turnovers happen, and then we got beat by Iowa because of special teams. So
yeah.
I guess to answer your question is they focus on it. We need to start winning that battle every time. But we won in a lot of games last year because of Mevis. Mevis was great for us last year.
Well, it's not special teams. It wasn't Mevis because Mevis was one of the best kickers I've ever seen at Iowa State. He was one. How many did he miss? One or two? That was it.
I don't
remember.
I don't remember which one he missed, but he probably missed one, maybe two. But at the same time, he was money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a strong leg. So. Now that's wide open, including the Gator. I think he was the Gatorade, or he's a Player of the Year in Oklahoma, which is an Athlete of the Year in Oklahoma. But he's coming in as a place kicker and a punter. And he's a freak athlete, great softball player, or baseball player, and a great basketball player as well.
Wow.
So really good. When you look at him, he doesn't look like he should be your place kicker.
The funny thing about Mevis was he was remember the Oklahoma, the Big 12 championship game where the kickoffs were just atrocious. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then literally days later, we got Mevis. It was just like, oh, I think Campbell made a couple phone calls and got that one done.
Well, I mean,
because that was not an issue at all last year.
Right.
Well, now that J.J. Cole's coming to Iowa State, Jamie Cole, who runs Cole Kicking,
right,
Come on, Jamie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we were saying.
Yeah.
Because he was Derek Clark's roommate or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When he was there, I mean, we were saying how can we have this strong of a connection with Jamie Cole, and we are struggling getting a kicker. I mean,
So Jamie's a friend, obviously, and I give him crap about this all the time. And I mean, JJ's been around our tailgate for 20 years, right? I mean, 18 years. So it's funny to watch what he's become. But trust me, now that JJ's coming to town and going to play, we need to be all over Jamie. You go find us the best punter and kicker you got out there. So JJ,
we could have him in a really deep shotgun and do a quick kick or something with him sometimes. I'm assuming he knows how to kick.
Well, you know what? I don't think so.
Really?
No, I don't. That's not his game. So.
Yeah, no, I knew he's blown up this summer.
There, even when they used to have like kick, like when it was like either like you were gonna go for it and like the quarterback knows how to punt really well. You know?
Yeah,
like,
right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Just quick kicks. I'm sure he can knock a few of those down. Yeah, but we don't want to be using them for that.
No, gosh, no.
Yeah, because well, it was nice having you on again.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's nice having a guy that's a stud in Iowa State radio and the land right in town, Humboldt, and it's just nice to. I'm related to each other for God's sakes.
We all are up here, aren't we?
So I call it the Humboldt County stick, family stick. And everybody's related to everybody in
somehow.
Somehow. So it's been fun. I mean, I know you're the crazy time is coming up for you, John and Eric, and don't want to try to bug you during that time, but life has kind of gotten in Thomas and I's way. We don't do this as often as we used to, but we're trying to get back in a little bit, and we're excited about that. I mean, I feel just as an Iowa State fan, it's much more fun to be the hunter than hunted. And I think we kind of got nipped by that a little bit last year. And I wouldn't surprise me a bit if we just blow that 6.5 over/under thing wins out of the water and sneak in 9 or whatever. But
well, good spot of that is Gundy just named Iowa State game their blackout game of the year. Like that's their focus for the year.
Oh, really?
That's not a secret. He knows who has. He knows
what
locker rooms look like. Yeah, you're gonna love. I have a lot of friends actually going down. So
but we're making it a bunch buddy of mine. We try to go to one game a year. I had to go to a wedding last year. I couldn't go last year, but he just texted me the parking pass we've got in Stillwater.
It's gonna be a great football game down there. I mean, it's gonna be a really good football game down there, like it was last year.
Yeah,
that was an amazing football game last year.
All right,
thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Go Cyclones.
Go Cyclones.